Welcome back to Beyond Wisdom, where we explore timeless truths for a more peaceful and meaningful life. Today, we're exploring how to stop letting your feelings control your life. Emotions are powerful, but when they take the driver's seat, they can steer us away from clarity, peace, and self-respect. This video is about learning to feel deeply without losing ourselves in those feelings. Feelings are like weather. They pass through us, but they aren't meant to become who we are. Anger, sadness, anxiety, they all carry information. But too often, we treat them like instructions. We lash out because we're angry. We isolate because we're sad. We give up because we're afraid. But emotions are just signals. They're not always accurate, and they don't always tell the whole story. Imagine getting a message from someone who only sees part of a situation. That's how emotions work. When we pause and listen without reacting, we begin to respond to life instead of reacting from pain. That pause is where wisdom lives. This truth is simple but powerful. Your feelings are something you experience, not something you are. You can feel anxious without being an anxious person. You can feel overwhelmed without being broken. Many of us merge our identity with what we feel, and that makes it hard to let go. But when you start saying, "I notice I feel this way," instead of, "I am this way," you open space between who you are and what you feel. That space is freedom. It's where choice begins. And in that space, we find peace. Trying to control your emotions by ignoring or burying them is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes effort, and eventually, it pops up, usually when you least expect it. The more we resist a feeling, the more it controls us from the shadows. But when we gently allow ourselves to feel what's there without judgment, the emotion often softens. Sadness doesn't drown us when we stop trying to avoid it. Anger doesn't explode when we admit it's there. Emotional control doesn't come from force. It comes from acceptance, from making room for our feelings without letting them run the show. Imagine your thoughts and emotions like clouds passing through the sky. They appear, they shift, and eventually, they move on. But most of us don't watch them. We jump into the clouds and let them sweep us away. One simple but powerful practice is mindfulness. Just noticing what you're feeling without needing to change it. Say to yourself, "This is anger," or "This is fear." No need to judge it, just witness it. Over time, this witnessing becomes your superpower. Because the more you observe your emotions, the less they control you. You become the sky, not the storm. Many emotional patterns are just habits. If you grew up being rewarded for being quiet, you might suppress anger. If you were punished for showing sadness, you might bury your grief. These habits can feel automatic, but they aren't unchangeable. The first step to rewriting them is noticing when you're stuck in a loop, like snapping at someone every time you feel criticized. Then pause. Choose a different response, even if it's just silence. Over time, new pathways form in the brain. You don't have to be a slave to your emotional history. You can choose a new story, one grounded in calm, compassion, and clarity. It's hard to regulate your emotions when you're constantly judging yourself for having them. Many of us think we need to be tougher or less emotional, but that attitude only adds shame on top of everything else. The truth is, emotions respond better to kindness than control. When a child is upset, you don't scold them to make them stop crying. You comfort them. Your emotions need the same gentleness. When you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, what do I need right now? Maybe it's a break. Maybe it's fresh air. Maybe it's just permission to feel without fixing anything. Self-regulation starts with self-trust, and that begins with treating yourself like someone worth caring for. It's hard to manage your emotions in a chaotic environment. If you're constantly overstimulated, underslept, overcommitted, or surrounded by negativity, your feelings will naturally be more intense. Emotional stability isn't just an internal process. It's also about what you allow into your life. Start noticing what drains you and what restores you. Spend time with people who help you feel safe and steady. Make space for rest, quiet, and beauty. Eat in a way that supports your energy. Move your body, even a little. These may sound small, but they create a foundation. And when your outer life is more peaceful, your inner life often follows. There will always be days when you feel like quitting, withdrawing, or reacting. But feelings come and go. Meaning stays. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be right now? Not, what do I feel like doing? This shift is powerful. It moves you from emotion-based living to value-based living. For example, you might feel like snapping at your partner, but you choose patience because love matters more. Or you feel like giving up on a goal, but you keep going because it aligns with your purpose. Let your deeper values steer the ship, especially when the emotional waves get high. Discomfort is part of growth. But most of us weren't taught how to sit with it. Instead, we try to escape it through distraction, food, blame, or shutting down. But when we practice staying with the discomfort, something shifts. The feeling becomes less scary. We start to see that we can survive it. Even more, we realize that emotions aren't permanent. You can feel anxious and still take the next step. You can feel lonely and still choose connection. Every time you sit with discomfort without reacting impulsively, you grow a little stronger. Over time, your emotions stop being threats and start being teachers. Reacting is automatic. Responding is intentional. When we react, our emotions take over before our mind has a chance to weigh in. But when we take a breath, step back, and respond, we're choosing wisdom over impulse. This is one of the most powerful skills you can build. It changes how you speak to others, how you handle stress, how you treat yourself. Instead of feeding the fire, you calm the flame. And the more you do this, the more you realize that emotional control isn't about suppressing what you feel. It's about guiding it with awareness and heart. Your emotions are part of you, but they are not the whole of you. They can rise and fall like tides, but you are the shoreline, steady, grounded, always there. Learning to stop letting your feelings control your life is not about becoming numb. It's about becoming wise. Let your emotions speak, but don't let them steer. With gentleness, practice, and patience, you can return to the quiet strength that has always been inside you. What's one emotion you've been learning to understand better instead of letting it control you? I'd love to hear your reflections in the comments. If this video helped you, consider subscribing to Beyond Wisdom. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay calm, stay strong, and stay wise.